Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we got David Fine on the show on the Just Saying podcast. And he is the broadcaster and basically in charge of anything media related with the Reading Royals, a hockey team out of Reading, Pennsylvania. He went to Syracuse University, he grew up in Jersey. He paved his way through the broadcasting industry, and I'm sure he's got a very bright future ahead of him. He has really interesting stories about being on the road with the Royals, and it was a very interesting and great conversation to have with the man, David Fine from the Reading Royals, on today's show. Also, I know you're gonna complain about the audio issues. I'm working on it. Apparently, you just can't plug a USB mic into a laptop and say, hey, I can podcast now. Because your laptop goes, hey, jackass. It's a little bit more difficult than that. So, I'm working that out. So hopefully in the future we'll have much better sound quality. So, I apologize in advance. But, nonetheless, David Fine from the Reading Royals. Enjoy the show.
I'm just saying, don't get upset. Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm just saying, don't you take it personally. I'm just saying, don't get upset. Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm just saying, don't you take it personally.
All right, David Fine, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I'm Just Saying with Justin Werley, myself. What made you want to go from a broadcast booth in the professional environment of the Reading Royals to a spare room in the Exeter Commons area, wing spread? And yeah, by the way, I'm fine with telling everybody my headphones were garbage, or the echo in this room is garbage. That's not scary to me. What made you want to do this?
Yeah, so you invited me, and I was like, why not? You know, it would be a fun thing to do.
That is easy.
You'll find that in the off-season of the ECHL and off-season of any sport, that a broadcaster for a team is looking for an excuse to talk. No, but honestly, it seems like a good way. You know, I've been here the last year to, get out, talk about what I do a little bit, so what we do with the Royals. So
Good, and I'm glad to have you. I'm happy as hell to have you on. Let's talk a little bit about you and your, you have your LinkedIn here, and you can get all kinds of stuff on you through that, but what I don't see a lot of is the little David Fine. Who were you growing up in New Jersey, Bloomfield High? Before that, though, I want to go even back before that. Elementary school with David Fine.
I was a bad kid. When I was in 6th grade, I was playing soccer, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a good athlete. Like, I played tennis in high school, but like I could never do what the guys I'm describing in the hockey world doing. Like, I could never do that. But I remember like tripping a kid in 6th grade soccer, and I totally did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember it. And I remember my grandfather like yelling at me afterwards, like right in my face.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like, I was not that well behaved of a kid. At all. Like, I still, even to a certain extent, like, I listen to directions and listen, but I sometimes am skeptical. So I don't think I was a very good kid, and yeah, that's the long answer short.
Well, okay, so let's get into that a little bit, because I was not a good kid as well.
Are you more skeptical of someone that says they are a good kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I stay away from those people because I know I'm willing to say that I was not I would be willing to say I was a terrible kid growing up, horrible adolescent years. Okay, for example, this is me as a bad kid. First grade, I was a big fan of movies and stuff. And when a guy and a girl fight in a movie, at that time, the guy always storms out and has a big grand exit, like where he's breaking glasses and doing all these things in like a romantic like drama thing. So I thought, well, that's what you do when a girl doesn't like you. So in first grade, I asked a girl for a kiss.
That's pretty bold.
Yeah, and she said no. Well, I went back through my notes, and what you do here is you act like you're angry and upset, even though I didn't even know what rejection was at that time. But so at the end of the day, we were stacking our chairs on the top of our desks, and I go, all right, well, I'm going to get her right here. I slapped her chair off the top of her desk, which then careened into other desks and chairs. Ended up being way bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. And needless to say, I got sent home and a letter sent to my teachers because I did this. But I thought that's how you were supposed to react. And if you ask my fiance now, she says not much has probably changed. But but that's my idea of not being the best kid growing up. Do you have any moments like that?
I'm trying to remember. I remember
embarrassing, youthful moments.
Goodness.
That made good stories.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I remember, I think it was like in 7th grade, and our chemistry class or whatever, well, like not like intense chemistry because like you do that in high school,
sure.
But whatever it was, like biology, chemistry, like it was like a joke of a class. Like I have no problem saying like did not learn anything the entire year, and I remember like we had like a field day thing where like our class just went outside. Like there was this little like field in the back, soccer field. Actually, that same soccer field where I tripped a kid in 6th grade. But we went out there. We're like throwing a frisbee, and then there was this kid, and I was just like, I'm just gonna like try to tackle him when he catches the frisbee, and I did. And he got up and pushed me to the ground, like just being.
So you got being, like sort of your first fight.
Yeah, like no. First fight was a couple of years before that.
Really?
There, yeah. Someone pushed me into the when I was in elementary school, probably 4th grade. Like pushed me. We're playing basketball. I love playing basketball. I can't do it anymore because my shoulders, but and we'll pop right out in a second. But he pushed me into like the gravel on like the blacktop. It was more like gravelly, not like straight blacktop.
That's pretty nasty.
Yeah, and I never forget the kid that did it, Jordan Bono. Like won't forget it. I'll call him out. And I
coming for you.
And I had the little like rocks tore the skin right off a kneecap and had like little rocks in there. It was nasty, nasty 4th grade injury.
Sure, yeah.
In suburban New Jersey, and I got up and the lunch attendant was like trying to she saw it happen and she knew I was gonna be angry. And I'm pretty sure I did a little swim move and an NFL lineman would do to get around her, and I probably just hit the kid once or twice, but you remember those stressful moments.
You got some shots in?
I don't know if I got any shots in. I was always the taller kid, and I guess I still am, being 6'3".
Yeah, you're not a small guy.
No, but I don't remember really getting any shots in. You're probably separated pretty quickly.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe that's that's the closest I've ever been to being in a real fight. He may have punched me once.
But you're better off, let me tell you. It's not fun.
Yeah, that's why I broadcast hockey, to just watch these guys beat each other.
Yes, you get to describe what they're doing instead of being involved. Okay, so that was the elementary time. For the most part, you were kind of, I won't even call you a bad kid from those stories. Those are weak bad kid stories. Those are weak.
I mean, yeah, those are yes. I can say I've had some emotional and slightly physical confrontations.
Okay, tell me your most awkward, let's go from elementary to junior high, relationship story.
Oh yeah, so I asked a girl out I'm Jewish. I asked a girl out at my bar mitzvah and she said no.
Ooh!
Said no.
Ooh, was this early in the day?
This was but it was sort of a build up to the entire thing. In 7th grade, I was I told one of my friends, I think I'm going to do this. My friend Ethan, who works in New Orleans now, and he was like, oh, we got to try to, and then he talked to someone else, how can we get them to be by themselves?
Oh, geez, because you had to be by yourself at that age.
Yeah, in 7th grade. And I think eventually I was just hey, want to go see a movie sometime? I don't know. And she was just I'm not really sure, and that was
just blew it off.
At the time, 7th grade, David thinks oh, there's still a chance, she's not sure. But now
You know what that means.
Now, like 13, 14, 15 years later, David knows like that's a load of.
Yes.
So that's probably the most awkward one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you a good one. I was dating. This is how shallow elementary school Justin was. This girl, we were okay. You call it dating. You went nowhere. You didn't.
Your parents drop you at the movie theater.
Yes, and when you're past each other in the school hallway, you avoid. You don't even look at each other.
No.
You just kind of, we're together. I'm not ever going to talk to you. But at least in this small town, it is. And so she ended up spraining her ankle or something like that. And then somebody. This is the harshness of kids. So she was on crutches, and somebody had told me that the girl had a back brace. And made fun of me for dating a girl with a back brace.
Like back brace, like she was heavier, or is
no,
it not like
no,
not
she
like a weight
wasn't
brace?
that big.
No. Like,
No,
you know, you have
she-
like things that.
Yeah, her back, I guess, as they figured out, was not forming correctly.
Okay.
She had like a
like scoliosis.
yeah,
or
whatever.
something,
And
Remember that word?
yes,
That's a throwback word. Sorry. I
yes.
don't know.
No, you're way more educated. We'll figure more of that out later. But yeah, so she had a back brace on. So then I didn't even notice early on, and then I started looking at her. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see she has a back brace on, and it freaked me out. And then I was getting made fun of. So of course I got to do damage control as 6th grade Justin.
Yeah.
So it's Valentine's Day, and we've only been going out like a week or two, and she goes, oh, we don't have to get anything for each other, you know, it's Valentine's Day. And, you know, I bought that. Oh, good, because I'm not staying with you long anyway. I didn't want to have to, you know, ask my parents to borrow money. So Valentine's Day comes around. Here she is on her crutches and her back brace with a bag of stuff that she got me.
No.
And I have nothing.
No.
I have nothing. And then I go, oh, well, I didn't get you anything. She goes, no, it's okay, it's fine. I said we didn't have to get anything. And then I felt completely guilty and horrible. So all I had was change from my lunch money. And she was, oh yeah.
You paid her.
Oh yeah. I gave her about $1.25 in change. And she's like, no, I don't want that. I dumped it in her backpack that she was carrying with her, knowing she couldn't chase me because she was on crutches, and ran to my next class. Plus there's like 40 more of those, but we don't have to talk about all of them. This is about you.
She's in the fault there. Like, I just went like.
Yeah, she shouldn't have had a back brace, right? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm kidding.
If there's an agreement not to get each other something, it's always the guy is always only the one that can lose in this situation.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
you're better off being safe.
Yeah,
I learned that.
That's her fault. That's her fault. I have no problem saying that. So.
Okay.
This is why I'm single.
Oh, well, hey, you know what though? You're at times in life, that's not a bad thing, because you can have the freedom to do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah.
So the amount of traveling you've done in your life, that would be very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, in a relationship, it
Yeah.
just would be.
Yes.
So let's go to high school. At some point, I'm assuming in this time, judging on your college choice and what you chose to do, you thought, okay, you've already told me that you didn't think the athletic side of things is going to work out.
Yeah.
When did you decide to get into the broadcasting?
Yeah, so my dad is not involved. He likes sports.
Mm-hmm.
My mom doesn't like sports. My dad thought about, he said, being a sports broadcaster when he was a kid, but then didn't do it. He's a research scientist.
Still in Jersey?
He lives up in Connecticut now. My mom still lives in Jersey. He lives up in New York and works in Connecticut. It's right on the border there, but my mom still lives in Jersey. Anyway, so I remember this, I was a junior in high school, and like a PSAT, remember there's an SAT, but there's the practice SAT.
Yeah, guess who didn't take that?
Yeah. Well, I remember my mom bought me a book of 5 of them, and this is at the beginning of your junior year, so it's just when you're starting to think about colleges. Right. For most of, I feel like kids nowadays are probably thinking when they're 8 years old about college.
Right. Oh yeah, it's earlier.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot earlier, but you bought those books at Barnes and Noble, those $20 books, where will you go to school?
Yeah.
But these PSATs, and I remember at the beginning it said this is what you will see in a week when you take the test, and I was finally going to take 1 or 2 of the practice ones in the final week, so you could get some like college scholarship money. It was actually like a good thing to do if
Right.
you did well on the actual one. This was just a practice one, to practice before the practice.
Right.
But it said like, what major are you anticipating doing in college? Like, because if you say which one, then colleges will send you information on them that has those programs.
Nice.
And so I'm sitting there, and again, this is just what I'm going to see in a week. I'm like, kind of like communications, like kind of thing. Maybe I want to be a broadcaster.
Yeah.
I grew up a big New Jersey Devils fan, which is how I got.
Oh
involved in
God.
hockey.
And I invited you on.
Yeah, well, I notice how I said it. I grew up a big Devils
Right.
fan. But the Devils broadcaster was Mike Emmerich.
Yeah, yeah.
On TV, and he's the guy, Doc Emmerich, that does the national for
Yep.
NBC, and
Yep.
used to work for the Flyers, and grew up in North Jersey in the late '90s, and they won 3 cups,
Mhm.
and that's part of the reason I grew up a Devils fan. And they played 10 minutes from where I grew up, and I was like listening and watching the Devils games, and Doc Emmerich was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Then it sort of died down a little bit, and you do all this stuff, and you start visiting schools, and then you realize, like, hey, this is actually, it's not like some made up thing. If you want to try to do this, you can choose to do this. When I had reasonable enough high school grades, and my dad was very serious about making sure that my writing was good, which I didn't really realize maybe until I got into college, that like, heck, I can be pretty simple in how I write, and it won't hurt me.
Mhm.
And that's a very strong characteristic of journalism, is to be very simple in how you write, but very strong and very varied in your sentence structure. And then all of a sudden you're at Syracuse, and I'm doing it at one of the better communication schools. I think it's the best one in the country.
You hear a lot of people that are successful have been through that. There,
Yeah.
specifically Syracuse.
Yeah, and not to get off point for more about high school stuff, but like going up to Syracuse, it's 20 degrees, and every day in
Yeah.
December and January it feels like in February, and it snows. My freshman year there, it snowed on like April 26th.
Wow.
And I know that because the university basically throws like a big party the last Friday of classes, like most schools do. And they call it Mayfest, and it used to be in May, but then it was like after finals. Were done, so people went absolutely crazy. So they moved it to the last week of April, the last week of classes, but still called it Mayfest. And anyone from up in Syracuse would know what this is. And I mean, it just turns into like an off-campus, non-university sponsored party where like former Syracuse basketball players have come back and like partied with the students. Like, it's a lot of fun. But it snowed on Mayfest my freshman year, and then I think my sophomore or junior year it snowed as well. Maybe my senior year, I don't remember. But yeah, so like then all of a sudden you're in a top broadcasting program in the country, and you still got to put in the work. There's 1,000 kids that are like you trying to do the same thing, but if you can find little ways, different internships, different things to separate yourself, then like you put yourself in a pretty decent spot, like anyone from up there would tell you. So yeah.
Absolutely, that's awesome. And obviously, your good high school grades translated to college. What did you end up with? A 3.8?
If something like that.
3.8.
Where'd you find that?
It's
somewhere.
It's on your LinkedIn. You put that on your LinkedIn. You put that in
Oh
there.
god, I gotta go delete that.
Yeah, you put that on there. The 3.8.
Yeah.
You could just lie. Say 4. It'll be fine.
Oh, I'm the classic, and I feel like this is the same way for like most, because I consider myself a journalist first before anything. Some people, I'm a broadcast. No, like I'm trying to find out stories about these guys. Matthias Cleveland, who just signed with the team up in Portland, Maine, the Maine Mariners. I saw that he scored in his first professional game. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
but then the journalist thing to figure out is like, okay, when did he score? And then I noticed he scored like a minute into his first professional game.
Wow.
So I go and I'm like, well, what happened? What was the situation? Was it your first shot? Was it your first shift? And then he says like, yeah, and he starts telling the story, and then he go tell that on the air. Like, that's journalism.
Absolutely.
But that's different than like just being a talking head or a broadcaster.
Sure.
But yeah.
And I don't think most people look into half that stuff. By the way.
What I meant to say is about the 3.8 GPA.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like got a 90 in absolutely everything. Like my grade, I would never get like an 88. I would never get like a 93. It was always like a 90. Most journalists are like that. Like, a little about a lot, but you're not like specialized.
Right.
Like
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you see that a lot in your the other people that you work with. You see
Yeah.
that it's similar throughout.
Yeah, because we all have like really random memories of certain things, like the story I just told about that defenseman.
Right.
But we couldn't tell you 1,000 things about one thing, but we could tell you 5 things about 1,000 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty. I think you all have OCD. I think that's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. All right, so you're at Syracuse, 2011 to 2015.
Yeah.
You got your New York internship, 2012, correct?
Yep.
And that's at ESPN New York.
Yeah.
Now, how crazy is that? You grew up watching ESPN, and now all of a sudden you're on the local station.
So I wasn't like on it, but I was helping out behind the scenes. So
Okay.
there's a guy named, and I still feel bad about this. I used to work like 2 times a week the show was from 4 to 6 a.m. It would lead into Mike and Mike. Guy that works for like Fox Business now. His name's Jared Max. He's one of the only openly gay sports commentators out there. But I used to go in, and Scott Seidenberg was the producer, and these guys probably wouldn't remember me.
Right.
But Scott like hosts a show on NBC Sports now, and so it's these guys, and I'm there 4 to 6 a.m. and then I would come in like at later points on different days. So Wednesday I might be in from 8 to 4, like a normal shift.
Okay.
Which I have a Stephen A. Smith story, which I'll share in a second. But anyway, so like I would go in at 4 in the morning. I would drive into New York City because there's no public transportation in New Jersey at 2 a.m. or something.
Sure.
And so would go in, and I still feel bad about the fact that I would like call screen. It would be the same like 10 guys over and over again. This guy called, and he's like, "Hi, this is LZ. Put me on." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like LZ? I don't know who you are." Like I hung up. I'm like an 18-year-old kid. And
Sure.
He calls back. He's like, "I'm LZ Granderson. Like put me on the show. Like keep me on hold or whatever."
Right,
He's
right.
being nice about it. He's tired. He's up early.
Sure.
Turns out he was best buddies with Jared, and he's like a major contributor to CNN on Sports Network. And like I thought this guy was crazy.
Well, yeah, you don't know.
And I was like, LP, LD? I'm like, what? His name's LZ Granderson. And I remember like hanging up on him like 3 times in a row at 4:30 in the morning.
Stop playing with the phone.
Yeah. But so like that was, but Jared and Scott were great guys, and like they let me do a lot of like helping out stuff that you couldn't do on, let's say, like the Michael K show.
Sure.
Or something.
Yeah.
But Stephen A. Smith had his own show there in New York only at the time. And now he has like a national show from 1 to 3. Back then he had a show after like First Take with Skip Bayless.
Right.
It'd be on from like 1 to 2. It would be like, I forget, Colin Cowherd at 10
Right.
to 1 or something. Or no, Colin Cowherd from 10 to noon.
And this was back when they were just radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember listening to Colin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him on the radio.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites when he was on the New York station. 12 to 1 would be Mike Lupica, who was a New York Daily News writer, but he had his own radio show. And then I think 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 was Stephen A. Smith. But one time Stephen A. comes in and he's like exhausted. He just had like, as he put it, like I battled with Skip Bayless for 2 hours. And so he comes into the studio, right above Madison Square Garden where their studio used to be. And I've probably told this story 500 times, where he comes in and he's like, I need, it's like whispering, it's like, I need someone to, like my voice turning, like, I just need to relax. Can someone get me like a sandwich from downstairs in Penn Station? And so they just like looked at me, I'm the only intern in there. And he's like, young man, will you get me a
Young man.
young man, like the exact same way he'd say it on air. I don't do a good impression, but he's like, can you get me on Marble Rye? You know? And he starts talking like he's about to get into like a battle against like Skip
he has a
Bayless.
point.
Like some honey ham and some turkey and some Swiss with just a little Russian dressing on the side and some pickles. They know I like pickles down there. Say two nice pickles for Stephen A. and some lettuce and some tomato. And he's like, are you writing this down? I'm like, no, but I will. I'm like, just like looking up at it, marveling. And so I went and got Stephen A. Smith his sandwich, and he's on the air like when I get back up with the sandwich. And I like walk into the studio holding the sandwich, and they're like, go in. And so he's like in the middle of like battling one of his callers.
Right.
He's like, no, like this, you're wrong on this, like this is the right way. And I walk in, and he looks at me and he goes, oh, thank you, young man. And he continues talking about whatever he like perfectly switched out. He like muted his mic in the process, and then came right back to the to arguing with the caller or something.
Not one
he's
skip.
A pro.
Yeah.
Not one skip, man. And I'm so happy to see like the success he has now, because he's an awesome guy in person too. People say, oh, he's a blowhard. He doesn't actually like think those things. Like, no, he's passionate about everything.
Right.
I mean, it's awesome to see.
You don't have to agree with what he says, but he's good at what he does. You can't argue that. I don't think you can argue that. I don't agree with a lot of the things he says, but I do realize that there's talent there, and that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that internship was a fun one. Like, I don't think I really got much out of it other than like getting a
A
sandwich.
sandwich. You got a sandwich.
Well, I mean, some people wouldn't be able to get the sandwich.
Right.
So,
However, I want no mayo on that sandwich.
yeah.
As the computer here scares me again for the 5th time today. So that was strictly radio your whole time in New York in
Yeah,
2012.
It was just, yep. I
Okay.
went to a few train stations in like West Orange, New Jersey, and passed out like coupons to listen to because they were switching from 1050 AM to 98.7 FM.
Okay.
They were one of the first big stations to like switch to FM
Okay.
to try to get more listeners
Sure.
from AM at the time in 2012. So yeah.
Wow. So you were part of the whole switch.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
pretty exciting. Then it says Blue Claws,
Yeah.
and that is in 2013, May to August.
Yeah.
2013. Now, how does that happen? Okay, so I guess you graduate. So you don't graduate Syracuse because you're doing an
No,
internship.
I'm a sophomore.
So how do you go about getting that internship for ESPN Radio New York? Because I mean, do you know somebody in there? Like, would
Yeah.
you?
So my aunt has worked in like some sponsorship stuff before, and she like knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, and so like they brought me in for an interview for some reason. Don't really know why, and they're like, "Do you know anyone that works here?" I'm like, "No, but like my aunt knows this person who's like friends with them," and they're like, "Oh, we know this guy," and then like 2 weeks later, you're interning in the #1 market radio station.
God, that's gotta be intimidating.
It pretty much was like having to, and this was something like when I was growing up in New Jersey, I didn't really commute like into New York City all that much. Hear that from a lot of people from New Jersey. Same thing with Long Island, just because like yeah, you go in for if you want to see like a show or like go to a Yankee or Met game, but other than that, like what's the point? There's everything that you need in Long Island or New Jersey
Well, right,
or,
yeah, sure.
or Connecticut or wherever you are,
Right.
and it's a pain, and it costs $10 for a train ticket
Yes.
one way,
Yep.
or $9 for a bus ticket one way. And it's only a 30-45 minute ride on train or bus or driving. Then if you drive, you got to pay $30 for parking.
Right.
And a lot of people just like don't go in all that often. I feel I don't know, maybe it's sort of similar to here to Philly. Like if you don't have to, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I hate driving in Philly.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Not like New York, but it's horrible. People
Yeah.
just walking out in the middle of the street constantly.
Yeah.
In Center City, Philadelphia. It's awful.
And that's the way it is in Reading sometimes. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But to get to like Lakewood, the next summer I was just called the broadcaster and was like, hey, thinking about wanting to maybe get into baseball broadcasting one day. Like I know you don't really have a position for it, but is there anything I could do? The guy said, yeah, come along. And I was like, well, I really like to make some practice play-by-play tapes because at that point I was already interning with the Syracuse Crunch in the American Hockey League.
Okay.
And I interned with them all 4 years I was in school.
No way.
Yeah, and that's that's like what really got me into hockey. But then at that point I was like, okay, I want to do play-by-play. So is there any way I can come in, make a few like play-by-play tapes, see Joey Gallo hit home runs against the Lakewood Blue Claws. Mitch Walding, who's on the Phillies now, was on that team for Lakewood. And yeah, that was sort of how I just basically asked, and the guy down there is still their broadcaster named Greg Giambarisi. He loves horse racing. I have not been in touch with him for like 3 years now. The broadcaster that he worked with, his like official assistant broadcaster, has worked in AAA before with out in Colorado. I think they're the Sky Sox in Colorado Spring.
Okay.
But he worked there afterwards. But yeah, like we're all a community and connected. So, but yeah, it was like working with the Crunch and then ended up in Lakewood after that summer.
That's right. You were with the Syracuse Crunch from 11 to 15.
Yeah.
So what do you prefer more? Does it matter what sport you're talking about, or you can kind of get a grasp of anything? Like, I mean, you look like a jack of all trades on this paperwork here because you've done softball, you've done lacrosse, you've done baseball, you've done hockey. Like, there had to be a sport where you didn't kind of know the ins and outs of it.
I would say it's the one I broadcast the most games for because hockey broadcaster says that baseball's most difficult. Baseball broadcaster, including Mike Ventola with the Bills, said, oh, hockey's the most difficult. But baseball to me was actually the toughest, but before I got the job out of school, I had with the team in Nebraska, which, was great, but like I had broadcast more baseball than hockey, but I still thought baseball was the toughest because, and now I don't think it would be for me, but at the time, you're trying to find your voice and have like, that resonant voice control as a broadcaster. So in baseball, if you go the 2-2 and you're like voice cracks, you sound awful.
Sure, yeah.
But in hockey, you're like passed up the left wing, he comes in on goal, he scores.
You can show emotion though.
Yeah,
You're allowed to.
And your voice cracks a little bit. That's fine.
Right.
It's not great. You don't want it to happen, but it happens a couple times in broadcast in various moments, just because you're talking more.
Right.
And at the time, I thought, man, hockey is so much easier than baseball because your voice, you can play around with it more and make a mistake and it's okay and just recover. In baseball, like it ruins an entire half inning if your voice like cracks on a single up the middle or something instead of single up the middle.
So did that happen to you when you were making it? Well, you didn't.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I'm trying to remember times, but it's also just a matter of being secure in where you're going next.
Right.
And hockey, your mind has to work a little bit quicker to figure out where you're going next.
Yeah, like a lot. To me, being outside, it looks like it takes 0 seconds. You have to know the next 30 seconds of what you're saying.
It's sort of like you have to anticipate more because in baseball, it's like, Rodriguez gets the ball, works from the stretch, runners on first and second, 2 outs, 1-0, Reading fighting Phils, leading the Bowie Bay Sox here in the 5th. He winds back and throws.
Right.
And then you're just waiting. But in hockey, it's like he's going to pass here. You can see him because you've watched him do that before. And then you assume that the defender is going to pick it off because he's in a good position. And then you just have to figure out where the puck goes next from there.
Right. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I am baffled by the speed that you guys can call a hockey game. Like, I'm sitting there. I don't even half the time I'm watching it on TV, and I don't see what the heck you just said. Like all the like down tight by the goal when you guys can see the puck, and I'm watching it with the best cameras. And
You can cheat though in it.
How can you cheat?
Because if you see that
Cheat!
there's
By
five,
what?
yeah, okay. So if there's 5 guys around the puck and it's like a foot from the net, on radio all I have to do is be like, scramble.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's cheated.
sure.
It's not, you have to have the presence of mind to know that
Right.
that's what it is and not be like, the puck is there, but it's there and it's there like, all at once. But if the puck, like, if it hits all 3 sticks in like 2 seconds, puck pinballs to the corner. Done.
No, that's a lot more simpler than I would have sat there and stammered. I think it hit that guy. I think it hit that. It's in his sock. It might be. I don't know where it is now. I don't know. You guys guess. I don't know. I would have quit. I would have quit.
If I don't see where the puck is, I might just say the guy that passed it is from this hometown. If for some reason,
Would you? What if you don't know that? Would you just make up a hometown?
Oh, no.
Oh, the guy that passed it's from Schenectady.
That's the research though. But generally, going into especially a radio broadcast, there's 3 biographical pieces that I like to have for every single player. On the Royals, it's 10 per guy because you learn them over time.
Sure.
But if you're playing a new team, the first time we played the team in Wheeling, West Virginia this year, I'll have like 3-4 things written down, just biographical stuff. He's from this hometown, he played with this team last year and scored this many goals. And here's an interesting fact that like his mom's like a famous chemist that was eligible for like the Nobel Peace Prize, whatever
Right.
random thing that you can find. All that's true, you're not making anything up.
Right.
And that's part of the research process that goes into it.
Now, how do you, don't mean to interrupt,
Yeah.
but where do you find all that? Like, I had the ability to do a LinkedIn search on you, like to find some of these guys that have, I mean, stuff's all over the internet, but
Yeah.
how the heck is that all you do? You do like a Google search of the guy's name and you find out all kinds of stuff about him? Is that?
I'm trying to think of a good example. So, I've drawn a blank on one of our guys. Oh, here's a good one. So, John Muse was the goaltender for the Royals this year in the playoffs. He went back up between the AHL and he signed an NHL contract, and he was with Lehigh Valley for about half the year.
Mm-hmm.
He actually had probably the second greatest regular season for a Royals goaltender ever, and he led the league in save percentage.
Wow.
He was really, really good. He was better than this level, but in numbers game he got pushed down.
Sure.
So he's just to give you a sense, he's a 2-time national champion at Boston College. And so you see he played for Boston College, and hey, he was kind of there when they were really good. Did he win anything? John Muse, Boston College national championships. Oh yeah, he was the starting goalie. You find a box score where he was the starting goalie when they won one of the national championships, and you're like, okay, well, how did he do? Take it even further with you that then, okay, so he starts his pro career, 7 years of pro hockey, right? And he played, he was the winningest goaltender for the Charlotte Checkers in their team history. I'm forgetting off the top of my head whether it was 4 or 5 full seasons with Charlotte, But basically, he was with Charlotte for most of the first 5 seasons of his career. But I don't remember it off the top of my head.
You have your notes.
And you don't want, I have it in my
Yeah.
notes. I think maybe it was 2011 to 15, so that'd be 4 full seasons, right? But I might not remember that off the top of my head right at that 1 second. So instead of trying to come up with a stat that I know might be wrong out of midair, I might just say John Muse, who's leading the ECHL in save percentage, having one of the best seasons in Royals history. He did very similar things in Charlotte for a number of years back a couple seasons ago, and he's the all-time winningest goalie in team history. Instead of giving you the actual stat, which you might mess up in your head at the time, and I'm not trying to make this solely into like the all about the play-by-play.
No, but that's what you do. I mean,
yeah, right. But you pick out the things, you try to remember the most important things, and doesn't need to be too detailed, because in radio it's happening so quick. If I tell you this whole story, here's another one about John Muse. I found out that from research that another journalist had did in Charlotte, that his dad owns a pizza place on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, Paul's Pizza in Falmouth, Massachusetts, and John lives on the Cape. How great is it to say in a December broadcast, I'm looking at my broadcast partner, Pat Richards, and I turn to him, and another save by Muse with the glove. He covers up, face off to the left wing circle, Royals zone. Royals still leading by a goal here early in the second. Hey, Pat, did you know that John in the summers, he likes to hang out around Boston. He's a Massachusetts guy. His dad owns a pizza place a couple blocks from the ocean in Falmouth, Massachusetts. David, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah, and John's not even a bit. What if I asked him about it? Yeah, John has worked there for a couple summers and he likes helping out with making sure his dad. All of a sudden, it's a whole story.
Yeah.
All I'm really saying is one thing. His dad owns a pizza place in Massachusetts on Cape Cod. That alone can carry you for 10
sure,
minutes.
exactly. Depending on what's going on, you might need to fill that time. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you're down 5-0 in the third.
Sure. What else are you? Not the game.
You want to talk about something else. So yeah.
Okay, so that takes care of your guys, though. Now, there's tons of back-to-backs on here, but they're the same team back-to-back
season, right?
Yeah. So here, for example, you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4 different teams in the span of a week. That's a lot of research for the away team.
Give me the example of the week you're talking about.
This year, it is February from the 3rd to the 9th.
Yeah, so we would have seen all these teams before, though, right? So because we play Manchester in October, so you just build it over time. What's nice is if you're playing 2 different teams back-to-back days and you haven't seen the teams before, it's difficult.
Yeah,
but
I'd say so.
You can do the research. You're doing the research a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance when you see these teams' rosters. So instead of having to prep for 10 guys the night before a game, which can happen, you at least have 10 guys done.
Right.
Or if you're seeing Wheeling in West Virginia in November and then again in January, maybe 5 or 6 guys have switched. But that's different than the NHL, where you might legitimately be seeing 4 new teams every week for the first 2 months of the season.
Right, sure.
That's tough. That's where you really got to be good. But if you've seen a player on Wheeling play 7 times and you've never really described who he was, and he scores a goal in the first period, and it was Seth Jones who scored the goal, and Seth's had a pretty good season series against the Royals, and he's from Arizona, and he's one of the guys that was picked up by the Nailers in November at they signed him from this team, and you can put the story all together. It makes it sound like you know everything about the guy.
It did sound good. I was believing everything. I don't even know if that's a real guy.
Well, Seth Jones is an NHLer for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Okay.
He's from, I'm trying to think, he's from Dallas, Texas, and he played for the Texas Junior Stars, Dallas Stars U16 growing up, and he was drafted.
You know what's upsetting right now? I can't describe family members the way you're describing these hockey players.
I forget my family members' birthdays. You just reminded me, it's my mom's birthday.
You might want to text or call.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks, okay.
2 weeks from now. So you just reminded me. I got to start thinking of something together.
Yeah.
I'll be bad about it. So
That's not good. You can't forget that one. That's an important one. Crap, what the heck was I going to ask you?
I'm really good at going off on random tangents.
Yes, I had something that I wanted to ask you that I'm like, oh, that'll be good. But all right, so we're all the way back now again to 2011 to 2015. And you go Syracuse Stars junior hockey.
Yep.
Which that's all the same area. That's all same.
Hockey, yep.
Yeah. Women's ice hockey. What's the biggest difference between the games? Anything?
No checking, but the pace is I would argue it's just as good. It was college women's Syracuse hockey D1. Program's not as big as like the Syracuse Crunch. The Syracuse Crunch, there's NHLers that you're seeing out there. Guys, the teams that I worked with in Syracuse, and guys, 15 or 16 of them are playing in the NHL right now over the course of 4 years. And that was amazing.
Right,
guys
sure.
that are legitimate stars in the league working for the Crunch. That's the one that shaped me the most. But going up to do Syracuse women's hockey, it just gives you an appreciation when because working with the Crunch, you're spoiled.
Yeah,
You're seeing there's 31 NHL teams. You're seeing one of the top 60 teams in the world playing.
Right.
And they were really good when I was there. So you're seeing one of the top 43 teams in the world playing, if not better. They made the finals one year I was there with the Crunch. But then you go and watch a little bit of a lower level of hockey, and you just get a good appreciation of, heck, this might be what you do for a few years out of college.
Right.
And if you say to yourself, I don't have time for this, I don't have time to watch like a lower level of hockey, because it is like women's college hockey versus the NHL, I would argue that. But if you say like, I don't have time for this is below like what I should be doing, that you're putting yourself so behind the eight ball. It's fun to call those games. I remember going with my girlfriend at the time, like sitting next to me. I had the headset on, and I would like get, there was like a really good hot chocolate machine, and you're just up there sipping a cup of hot chocolate and watching hockey and some intense games down the stretch.
Sure.
I think the best hockey game, not the best, but the most exciting third period and ending to a hockey game that I ever saw in my life was a Syracuse Stars game. The team came back down from 6-1 against
in the
third against the Jersey Hitmen, and the Jersey Hitmen goalie put it into his own net egregiously, where he turned around from like the face-off circle and he turned the wrong way and it went off the end of his stick and into the net, tied it at 6, and then the Jersey team that blew the 6-1 lead won 7-6 in overtime.
Wow.
And some of the players that are from on the Royals and in this league, like they played for that team, and you're talking to them about it, and they remember that game.
Wow.
And they're like, "Wow, you were calling that game?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
That's pretty awesome.
But that's the appreciation you get. It doesn't always have to be the highest level of stuff, because if you're doing a good job at what you're doing, you're getting experience and it's fun, and you're meeting different people.
Sure.
You're still doing what you love. So yeah.
And you know what? Just because you're not playing at the highest level with the highest technique and the highest ability doesn't mean that you're not getting, like you just said, an amazing game.
Yeah.
An amazing game.
I would say if you talk to a Mike Emmerich, if you talk to NHL,
Did he have his number? I was going to call him in a week. No, I'm kidding.
But if you talk to guys like this, I would say few guys that have been around the block. I'm not around the block. I'm 3 years out of school, and I've worked in broadcasting for 7-8 years now. But guys that have like been around the block, that started out at like a lower level, like we all did. No one just jumped into the NHL. They would probably say that like the best game that they've seen, or one of the most exciting games that they've seen, was not in the NBA, NHL, NFL. I'm sure that if you talk to like an NFL broadcaster, they might say, I remember doing this high school game in Missouri, and this guy who maybe went on to become a star, maybe didn't, had this spectacular performance, and it was awesome to see, and this amazing ending happened. I'm sure there's 1,000 stories like that out there from guys that are doing it. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Women's softball.
Yeah. 35 degrees. NC State arguing that they shouldn't have to play because it was too cold. You're sitting in this press box where your feet are so cold doing a doubleheader women's softball. And the ACC team, NC State, since they're from North Carolina, they don't even want to touch the Syracuse field.
Right.
They make that entire trip up. They fly up there. It's too cold. Can barely play.
But they play the game.
Well, if it was too cold, there was a rule in the ACC that like you didn't have to do it.
Oh, so they didn't play. They did nothing.
That's one example. There are many games that I did call that it just reminded me of a bad memory of, will the stupid team from North Carolina just play in the cold weather for once?
Or make a decision so I can get the heck out of here because I'm freezing.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2014, this Orleans Firebirds.
My favorite.
Massachusetts. So Cape Cod, my parents love Cape Cod.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I've been there once or twice as a little kid, didn't appreciate it, was miserable the whole time. But as an adult, I think I'd like to go there and enjoy the atmosphere. But Orleans Freebirds. Now, I didn't do the research of a David Fine, so tell me a little bit about that.
So it's a college summer league called the Cape Cod Baseball League. And I was actually in the middle of a broadcast for women's basketball. Not like a real broadcast, but I was making a practice tape at a Syracuse women's basketball game. And they called me, it was like February or March, the director that ended up hiring me, and said, she said, hey, David, we want to offer you the job, call us back. So I ended up in the middle of a tape, I like listened to the voicemail during like a natural stoppage in play. And I was like, oh my God, I can't, and I ran into the men's bathroom in the Carrier Dome and made this call back to them because I didn't have the foresight just to be like, all right, call back tomorrow.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
No, you're all fired up.
You're all
Yeah.
fired up. You want to call back immediately, right? And so I made the call and I ended up going to Cape Cod for the summer. My mom actually just got back from Cape Cod. Actually, it's today, believe it or not. She was up there with my sister just for like 3-4 days. Normally I would go with her for like 3-4 days out of the summer. Did that basically for most summers, just going for like less than a week, but it's so beautiful up there. So that was number one, to try to go there. A Syracuse connection, who was the broadcaster the year before there, helped me out. It's between my senior year of college. And Eldridge Park, 434 to dead center, 434 feet. Produced Major League Baseball players like Frank Thomas and Nomar Garciaparra.
Yeah, know them.
Aaron Boone as well. Garciaparra was, I think, 93 and Frank Thomas was 88 or something. But if you're playing college ball, you go play in a wooden bat league for the summer, like most guys do. That's considered probably like the top of the top. They get a lot of money from Major League Baseball. So you're very fortunate to go there. You're watching a great baseball product where all the games take 2 hours and 20 minutes also. Really quick games as well. And so 44 game season. And the travel, I mean, I look at the travel then and I remember complaining about having to drive like an hour to Cotuit, Massachusetts, because it was
What's it like in Cotuit?
It's amazing. It's right next to the water. Every place in Cape Cod's great. But I remember like an hour trip to Cotuit, and that was like the worst of the worst, right? Now the average trip for the Reading Royals is like 6.5 hours in our division.
Right.
Those are the closest ones. 4.5, 5 hours, like the closest one that we'll have. If you get lucky.
And you drive yourself there, or do you go?
No. I'm on the team bus with the Royals.
Got a bus for
I
6
love it.
hours.
I get work done for 6 hours. You talk about the prep.
Yeah, that's what you're doing the whole time.
I'm doing social media stuff and prep for 6 hours, scheduling stuff. Anyway, so up in Orleans, though, the manager, he's still there. He's been there for almost close to 20 years now. Kelly Nicholson's a math teacher in Manhattan Beach, California. And during the summer, he's like this old, he's not old, older, he would even say.
Don't be an ageist.
No, gray-haired, glasses, laid-back guy from California that used to be a pitcher, a left-handed pitcher, and he still throws bullpen. He's probably...
Really? Throws bullpen?
I don't really know how old he is. I think he's in like his 50s or 60s, but he's still throwing bullpen to these 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old
Good for him.
kids. He's great. One of the nicest guys. And so out there for a summer calling baseball, and a lot of other broadcasters from colleges that are now working in pro baseball were calling games that summer with me. A guy that works up in Binghamton for the Rumble Ponies, he was there. A guy that works in Single A for the Winston-Salem Dash, they broadcasted those two guys for our main rival, the Chatham A's or the Chatham Anglers. And there's teams in Harwich, like 15-minute drive commute to call a game.
Well, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, and they had great cookies in Harwich. I can tell stories about this all. You go to the beach in the morning if you want, or the early afternoon. You show up at the ballpark at 4 o'clock, do some interviews, talk to Kelly, talk to Coach, hang out around BP, get the lineup, put it in your scorebook. You prepped already for the game most of the time. Sit on the beach doing prep, filling out like your scorebook sometimes. Nothing better in the world.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like the dream job.
Yeah, and you're on Cape Cod, and you don't get paid. And Orleans helped put me up for like close to free at a place, like as close to free as it's going to get. Where I was living with two other guys, one of the other broadcasters, and it sets you up great. You get essentially 50 opportunities to do whatever you want with a broadcast over an entire summer. And if you take it seriously, it's great.
Sure.
It helped me get to where I was the summer after in Lansing.
Now you just made a pretty good point there. You're not getting paid this whole time.
No.
So where's the income for the, you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for food. Where's all that coming from?
Well, like at Syracuse, I was fortunate enough, like I had a pretty good scholarship there, academic scholarship. So even though I wasn't getting paid up there, my parents are like, well, you got a scholarship, so like we'll throw some bucks your way.
Because hey, they don't have to pay for school,
Right.
really.
No,
So
it wasn't a full ride, but
Right.
like it was a good ride,
Yeah.
relative to no one's gonna pay $57,000 a year. It's like over 60 now to go to Syracuse.
No, you're talking to the community college king here.
Yeah. And that's the only reason why you go there as opposed to like a Rutgers or something.
Yes.
It being from New Jersey. So yeah, that's like where that was coming from. You're doing a good job. You're doing something that's important for your career, so you can do and get paid
Yeah,
for your career.
absolutely.
And reminder, like I wasn't living for free, but like living in Cape Cod for a summer, you're paying $5,000 a month for rent anywhere else. Like I think I was paying like $500 a month that I would give the old couple that was letting us borrow their place.
Wow.
So yeah, the older couple.
Wow, that was nice.
Yeah,
That was
and
nice
they had
deal.
they had this creepy trailer next to the apartment we were staying at that was like hadn't been opened in like 20 years or something, and there was like probably asbestos in there up the wazoo. So
Sure.
we were like looking at it every morning. So
I just saw a picture. Speaking of asbestos, I just saw a picture on Twitter. Somebody I follow, I can't remember the name. Sorry about that. I can't remember the name, but he posted an old school picture of an asbestos shoveling competition,
oh god.
like all black and white. And these guys, there's a guy with a whistle and a timer, like an old school stopwatch with not the digital, obviously, but he's standing there with a timer and a whistle, and they're shoveling this smoking asbestos into these barrels for, I don't know what the prize was,
Yeah.
but anyway, off topic. But I just thought that was a crazy picture to actually see. I can't believe any of those people made it too much longer after that
No.
contest.
No.
So, all right, after Cape Cod, Lansing, Michigan, Lansing Lugnuts. Now, okay, I gotta ask, how do these minor league sports teams find their freaking names?
Lugnuts are one of the like original weird name teams because they were the Lugnuts in 1996 was the year they were founded. It makes sense with Lansing because like cars and like a lot.
Right, Detroit.
And you're an hour away, and there's
Right.
all plants in like Flint, 30 minutes away, and etc. Like Saginaw, and, all these places have plants all over. It's Michigan,
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think like even it hasn't come to hockey yet. But in baseball, the Binghamton Rumble.
Oh,
Ponies,
yeah, it's all over. Maybe it is more of a baseball thing.
It is.
But it just sounds absolute. If you had a minor league baseball team, what would be your
Give me
weird?
a city. Any city in the world.
Okay, I can't say. Topton, Pennsylvania.
Like the
Okay.
already a Hilltoppers team.
I don't know. You pick a city.
All right, like if we're going Portland, Oregon, or something, I'd be like the Portland Pedal Lanes.
What the hell is a pedal
everyone
lane?
bikes in Portland, Oregon. So I always see. I've never been to Portland, but I always see pictures of people biking, and like there's all separate bike lanes all over the city. It's very progressive in the
Right, sure.
vesicular world that way.
Okay, there's like two words in a row you said that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But that's
just pick a weird name. But in our league, there's a team in our league, Maine. They're our first road game on October the 19th. We're up there at the Cross Insurance Arena. So they're the Maine Mariners, which is a good name.
Yeah, sure.
And they used to be the Maine Mariners in the previously from the Doc Emmerich actually was their broadcaster in the late 70s, their first team, or one of their first teams. So anyway, they had a competition, a name the team competition. And it was the Maine Mariners and the Maine, whatever, all these
Right,
normal
sure.
names, and the Maine Giants, whatever. The fifth choice that they put on there, and it blew up the hockey world on like Twitter and social media, the Maine Wild Blueberries.
Just because it was weird.
Just because it was weird.
Yeah.
And they knew it would get attention. What did I do? I voted 20 times for the Wild Blueberries. I don't know anyone that voted for anything but the Wild Blueberries because he wanted to screw them up.
But yeah, they sure as heck weren't going to pick that name, though, were
Yeah.
they? No.
Yeah, there's a fan vote. Like, come on.
Yeah, right,
They're going
right.
to pick the name that they can market. But this year, I think they're going to have a Wild Blueberries night, like a what if we were the
Oh, well,
Wild
that's kind of
Blueberries.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And they had like sample logos for each of them, and it was like, literally a blueberry making a mean face at you. They drew like eyes on it and everything. So
So what do you think about your time in Michigan?
it was great.
Any football games?
No, because I was only there.
Obviously not. Yeah, that doesn't match up.
Yeah, but I was going to hang around until I got the job out in Nebraska to work in hockey. I was going to hang around and do like local, high school football, high school basketball, do maybe like a talk show type thing. That never happened because I ended up in Nebraska. But Jesse's their broadcaster out there. They just hosted the Midwest League Single A All-Star game. He is a prime influence on my life, just in terms of not only a broadcasting perspective and all the things he taught me there, just different pieces of advice, but like from a life advice standpoint, he's one of the nicest people ever. He's an author, and he really helped shape me as much as I would say the guy that I worked with in Syracuse, Dan, did for 3 years.
Right.
He helped shape me over the course of the summer tremendously.
Great.
Always encouraged me to. He said, if you get a job somewhere in hockey and you want to do hockey, like leave tomorrow. Like that was
really
nice. He said, get out of here. Like go do what you need to do. So you're just starting your career.
So, okay, so that was Michigan, and then right after Michigan, you went to Nebraska. Was that the Tri-City Storm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I drove from. We were in. Oh my goodness, we're in Illinois. It's Kane County, the Cougars. So we were in Kane County, Illinois, which is like near Naperville and a couple other towns over there. Literally got in the car after a game at 5 o'clock on a Sunday, let's say, an afternoon game, and got in the car, and then I started the next day in Nebraska.
What's that drive like?
9 hours. Drove 4.5 that night to West Clive, Iowa, which I didn't realize.
West Clive.
Yeah, I didn't realize I'd be driving past West Clive, Iowa so much in my life. Just a suburb of Des Moines. And stayed at like some La Quinta or whatever. Got back in the car at 8 in the morning. Was in Nebraska by 12:30. Kearney, Nebraska, town of 20,000, a little bit more maybe. I was there for 2 years and it was great.
So, when we spoke on the phone, you said just bring up Nebraska. I have tons of stories about Nebraska. Tell me your Nebraska experience.
So first of all, I really enjoyed the people that I worked with directly there. The head coach was wonderful. Bill McColt is the associate head coach for the University of Michigan hockey team, former NHLer. Taylor Nelson, one of the other coaches I worked with, works up for Canisius College. He's an assistant coach there. Ben Gordon was an assistant coach this year, or has been worked with the University of Minnesota before, and he was an assistant coach this year as well. Those guys were great. Matt Stewart, my second year there, wonderful person. I mean, these are some of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. Just coaches that are all coming to this town to coach junior hockey, 16 to 20-year-olds. And we won the championship there my first year. That
had to be a heck of an experience.
First time they ever won a championship in 17 years. It was like when the Royals won it here in 2013, except 3-4 years later. But Nebraska, listen, I grew up in North Jersey. Nebraska's a
culture shock. Yeah,
it's a little bit of a culture shock.
They got the corn, and then they got the corn, and then what else is there in Nebraska besides corn?
The bar scene was really good.
Really?
Central Avenue in Kearney, Nebraska. It's easy. You can walk if you wanted. You're a mile away from your house. And because the town it was a box. It was a 5 mile by 5 mile box. So 20. What's 5 times 5? 25 square miles.
See, I can do that one. That's about it, though. That's where I top out.
It takes me a second on the square miles. I lived a mile and a half from Central Avenue, 15, 20-minute walk. Safe town. Literally never heard of any real crime that happened there. Maybe the biggest crime is that someone didn't open the door for their girlfriend on a date or something like that in Kearney, Nebraska. But the bar scene is good. People are some of the I'm not making this up. The nicest, most genuine people from that town that I still keep in touch with a few of them there that are wonderful. But it's a culture shock. Barely ever left town unless we were on a road trip because the closest town, just consider this, how big is Wyomissing? How many people live in Wyomissing? I don't know.
A couple thousand maybe? Not many.
But the suburbs. The greater Reading area, what's 100,000 in the city?
The greater Reading,
is 400,000 people about. There's 400,000 people that are living in this such square mile radius, and that's big. That's a big area relative to Kearney, because Kearney was 22,000 people about, and
that's a significant difference then.
Right.
Yeah.
But the biggest town of greater than 15,000, 20,000 people was and I know the mileage because I pass the sign on it every day to work, going over Route 80, the same Route 80 that you can pick up here. That's the Route 80 that goes through that, if you went an hour and a half north by Wilkes-Barre, like that Route 80. Anyway, or like Stroudsburg, whatever, that Route 80. So the closest town of like greater than 30,000 people, 50 miles to the east is Grand Island, Nebraska. 97 miles to the west is North Platte. If you get on Route 80, it says 50 to Grand Island this way and 97 to North Platte that way. Let me tell you something. There's not much in between.
Nothing in between, huh?
So you're in the town. You really do feel like you're on an island. You're 2 hours from Lincoln, and you're 180 miles from Omaha. Yeah, about 180, 150 miles or something like that from Omaha. That's the closest airport from Kearney of any that can fly anywhere in the U.S.
Wow.
Omaha, the Omaha airport. You can go to Grand Island and get a $100 flight to Las Vegas if you want, by the way.
Ooh.
But so much different. And like I remember we won the Clark Cup, and you're sitting there and you're partying the night after, and you're bringing the cup to all the local bars. And people that never have been to a game in the small town are even like excited about it. We just decided to like drink out of the Clark Cup for no reason other than like we could do it in one of the bars downtown. Have a fun time.
Why not?
Yeah, bring the cup different places. I remember I was responsible that night. And I was responsible, and I'm not making this up. Like the DD that night, for driving the coaches and getting the coaches back safely. Right. Because they were having a fun time.
Oh, why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. And my perk was I got to hang with the freaking coaches.
Sure, that's awesome.
Partying, it was great. And bring the cup around and carry it all these different places around town. That's like one of my favorite memories.
Sure, absolutely.
My life. That night after, how much fun it was, how excited I was, how I woke up after taking like a cab back to my apartment that was really like 2 miles away after being at the coach's house and hanging out after we won. Had a few beers and took a cab back. The next morning, walking to get my car and then I slept like an hour and a half the night after we won the championship, going in and knowing I had to do the highlights. And so doing the highlights from like 6 a.m. to like 9 a.m. after being up till 4 a.m.
You were done.
And doing all this stuff. And for the next week, like making all these celebration videos of the team, like that was so cool to be able to do that. But just other memories of meeting a bunch of people out there that were from so much of a different background than I was. Right. And like politically, definitely from a different background than where I was from. At least the general populace of where I grew up in, the Northeast, and how much different it was. But still being able to have connections with people out there, like that's a special thing.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Those life experiences are like, that's kind of what I would say envy of somebody like you who can do this and start from Jersey and travel all over. The East Coast for the most part a little bit, but can get out of their comfort zone and go do all these different things and chase what they really want to do at the end of the day.
Everyone, all broadcasters in our league have done that. Yeah,
but that to me, as a person who with crazy anxiety about stuff like that, and leaving their comfort zone and going out and doing things that might, this is what my goal is, but I'm terrified to do the things to get to that goal, is a struggle for me. Yeah. And you just got to kind of bite the bullet and do it. And if you fail, you fail. But hey, I tried it, and you'll do it again. But to just go out there and go, I'm going to do this. I don't care. I'm going to focus on what I want to do. I'm going to put my head down and achieve my goals. That's something that I envy in people. Yeah. Because I don't have it in myself all the time.
And you're exactly right. I was talking to my buddy last night. He works in South Carolina. He's the broadcaster in our league in South Carolina. He worked for the team in Nebraska before I was there. Okay. That's how I got to know him, because he was there before I was there. And he's been a great source of advice and all this stuff. And everyone in our world tends to help each other out if you want to go anywhere, because you're going to need help at some point. Sure. Right? But I'm talking with Jared 24 hours ago, and one of our friends, unfortunately, was just let go by a team, and it stinks and it sucks. Sure. And we know that next time he gets an opportunity, it could be in Walla Walla, Washington. Yeah. He's getting in his car and driving to Walla Walla, Washington, if he feels like he's going to be paid enough to live out there and do what he loves.
Absolutely.
You just do it.
That's the crazy world of the radio. In general, I think, when you do just radio, broadcasting and stuff like that, a lot of my favorite shows were talk shows. 94.1, the station from Philly, they were all talk at one point. and now they're completely different. Now they're sports talk now, but they used to be like rock and just regular talk radio. Well, the main guy that I listened to, he got transferred to Portland first, and now he's in Cincinnati. And it's like they drive to all these different spots because that's what you do. That's just your life. And some of these guys have families that, like, you know, if I was a single guy and you as a single guy, you could just do it. It doesn't matter. Yep. You know, you can't, hey, you tell your immediate family and friends, this is where I'm going to be, this is what I'm doing. I'm out. Yeah. But if you have a family and you have to relocate, like, to schools and things like that, that's got to just rip lives apart.
That's why you tend to see guys that, like, aren't in the NHL, let's say, that if they have a family, it's not like you're anchored to a place, but you just said it, like, it's tough to just be like, I'm going to broadcast at this place now, because our business is, and you learn this, I've been in it for 3 years as a professional, for whatever that's worth, and it's so fleeting. Guys are leaving. I remember one time I'm like, no job is open in another league or whatever. Like, guys are going to leave all the time. Someone's going to get fired here. The president's not going to like this guy there. And already in the professional hockey world this summer, there's been like 5 openings. Right. Just because, you know, some guy gets fired here, some guy decides to live with his girlfriend here, and he has to leave, and like, yeah, that happens. Yeah.
But the thing is, I guess the main rule is what? Don't buy a house. That's what they tell you everywhere. Don't buy a house because you're gonna have to sell that house.
Yeah. Don't buy a house.
That's crazy.
Our profession, or radio broadcaster, and minor league hockey. No.
So where are you at right now then?
So I'm living, you know where the Crab Barn is?
I do know where the Crab Barn is, near my parents' place, actually.
Yeah. So I live like near, there's one of those apartment complexes over there.
We almost, before we moved into our old place, we're going to go there.
Yeah.
It's nice though.
Yeah, it's like, it's interesting because you're a mile from Reading High.
Right.
And like, it doesn't feel like it feels like you're 5 miles from Reading High.
Yes.
And you're a mile from Albright, less than a mile from Albright. It's a 7-minute walk for me to get to that little Chinese food place there that I love.
Right.
Amazing walk. Like, I know you're not sponsored yet, but like, amazing walk.
It's
right?
fine.
Yeah.
They'll be fine with
it. They've gotten me through many nights of preparation, like having some house special soup and then like some like tofu or something like that. Really good tofu. Like, it's better than their chicken, so I just get the tofu. Anyway, but like, you know, it's like a 7-8 minute walk from my apartment to get down there, but you feel like you're a mile, and you feel like you're 7 miles.
Well, you're not around the garbage.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of, like, I'm a big fan of the Pike Cafe in Reading. Like, it's great, but man, you know, sometimes you walk a block either way. It's like, I hope it's light out. My cousin went to Albright, and he, you know, gunshots, you know, as he's trying to walk home. It's like, it's a shame because that area, especially right where the arena is, could be huge.
I feel like I'm not by no means a Reading greater development expert. It's unfortunate that the stigma of the downtown area is like that. And yeah, with the Royals, like if we were playing, I'll be honest, like if we're playing in Wyomissing or like the Fightings play, like, you know, get the hell out of here, we'd be drawing 1,000 more fans a game. Right. Like, come on, there's a stigma against downtown Reading. But with that being said, it doesn't mean, and I believe this, it could be 20 years from now. It doesn't mean that in 20 years from now, it's not going to be looking a lot better and people are going to be doing better off down there.
I hope so.
I think it will. I really believe it will be, because there's a team in our league in Worcester, Massachusetts. Worcester, Massachusetts looks a lot like Reading in certain parts, but it's not like Reading. Like, it looks like it, but it's not like it. Right. And so.
How so? What do you mean by that?
No, just like in terms of like it looks more like West Reading. It looks like the type of restaurants.
Okay.
And so you get people that are like, oh, we're gonna go to this place because, you know, now they're walking there and they're working at the bank or whatever right there, Santander Bank, and they're like, okay, I can just step outside and get like a nice lunch here, and then, you know, I went to this place, and then you go home and you tell your family like, hey, I went to this place, like, maybe go back downtown Reading and go there. And then there's more parking garages, or the parking's a little bit easier there, and maybe it's not as much of a walk. I really think in 15, it could be 5 years, it could be 15 years, it's going to look so much better in downtown. Like, I'm hopeful for it, that it will look so much better.
Well, I hope so, because, I mean, this whole thing that came out in the paper not too long ago, actually, it's probably over close to 6 months ago, where, and again, I'm not too much into the politics of all this stuff, but didn't one of the main guys on the board there, like, they can't find out where all the money to the city was even spent.
I know that there's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
A lot of like random things that pop up.
Just money missing. Where'd it go? Nobody has any idea. And now he's like, I'm done. Yeah, it's a whole thing, which is a shame because, like I said, and my fiance's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So I mean, not that that's some high class city, but
it's nice city though. I've been there. It's nice.
We lived there for 2 years, and like the north side and the south side, just built up and a great atmosphere, and it doesn't, setup wise, doesn't look too different. It's just, you don't have the broken windows, you don't have the empty businesses, It would be great to see that come back and be a booming area.
Yeah, I really think downtown Reading will be, because there's so many examples of a couple of investors that say, hey, we want to make it look like this and this. They give, it's easier for a business to develop in downtown Reading. And then all of a sudden, what it looks like in West Reading, it looks sort of like in Reading.
It crosses the bridge.
It crosses the bridge.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Once the bridge construction's 50% done, that's a major problem for
it's horrible. It's horrible.
Not only, I would say, for the Royals too. Like, the parking is difficult because, like, just for various reasons. It's annoying sometimes to park, but it doesn't mean it's hard. It just means it's not, like, you park at the DoubleTree, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yes.
But to get over the bridge is sometimes a pain. And the first thing my dad's only been in Reading just to see me a couple times. He said, man, like, someone's got to do something about that bridge construction. Once that's done and it's easier to get a little in and out of the city, I feel like that's really going to spur some things.
It could, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't make it easy for people, they're not going to take that additional step.
Yeah.
That's with anything, though.
That's
with
why
anything.
God bless our season ticket holders with the Royals, because they are some of the nicest people ever. They're great, and the fans and the encouragement that they do to, like, bring their friends to games, and then those people are hooked for life to come to their first hockey.
That's how I started going to the Royals. I mean, I've been to Flyers games, but I started going to the Royals. My best friend Sean Renshaw, his dad, is a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
And by the way, what do we got to do to get Patrick Renshaw a jersey at the last home game?
Has he never won a jersey?
He's never won a jersey. Never won a jersey. Sits there every year, and he never gets a jersey. Patrick Renshaw, yeah.
Patrick Renshaw. Okay. Is it W-R-E-N or is it R-E-N?
It's R-E-N-S-H-A-W.
Okay, we'll look him up. We'll see what we can do.
See that, Pat? No, he's a great guy. It's a great family in general. Okay, so we're at Tri-City Storm from 2015 to 2017, correct? And so that's the first pay job.
Yep.
Okay. Then how does the Royals? How does the whole Royals thing happen?
Break even job. You mean?
Oh, the first break even job.
Yeah.
How do the Royals come into the picture?
So I'm sitting at my desk in like last week of September. Season starts for the Tri-City Storm on like October the 6th. It's like September 26th.
Oh. You're ready for your season to start.
Yeah, see, everything's done for the season. I'm all ready for the season. Prep's done for the season. And we're about to go travel to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for a tournament, actually.
Where in Pittsburgh?
Cranberry Township.
That's where my wedding's happening in a year.
Yeah.
Getting married in Cranberry. The end of the turnpike, as I like to call it.
The end of the turnpike, yeah. In Cranberry, right at the Pittsburgh Penguins practice facility for the tournament. It's like 2 days before, literally 2 days before we leave. I think it's a Tuesday. We're leaving on a Thursday. Well, part of it is, you meet a lot of broadcasters and you try to stay in touch and be a good guy. And, you're happy for everyone that has success, whether they're, 3 years younger than you or 10 years older than you. It doesn't matter. Pay it forward, right? And so I like to think that, with some of the guys that I've talked to, that they would have the same way to feel about me, that if there was a chance or they heard something, maybe they'll shoot me a quick text. And I'll be honest, I wasn't necessarily thrilled about the idea of being in Nebraska for a third year, just because I want to be closer to family. Like,
sure, yeah.
I've told you this 1,000 times, like dog sitting my mom's dog
right yes.
now, just for the week, like golden retriever, like could never, and I love her so much, could never ever do that.
Not from Nebraska,
it's
no.
impossible. She can't get on a plane. I'm not putting a 9-year-old dog on a plane. She'd have a heart attack,
right.
Seriously. And you're not driving 24 hours round trip. It's impossible. Like just the little things, being back closer to home, closer to friends, like we all want to do at the end of the day. So I'm sitting at my desk and I get a text from a buddy that I had worked with previously, and he said, hey, just so you know, I saw the job in Reading came open. And I responded to him and I said, like, do you have a contact there? And he said, yeah, let me get it for you. And it was Mark Thompson, who was the broadcaster here for the previous 12 years. And he said, I just like texted Mark or something, and like he'd be willing to talk to you. And so like I talked to him like 2 minutes later. And then I saw, as I was talking, my phone kept on vibrating. I got like 3 or 4 other text messages saying, "This is open, apply for it."
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was
looking out for you. Yeah,
it was really cool. It was really cool, and it was. I felt very gracious for all these guys. So I talked to Mark, which is a good first step. He gave me a few hints who to apply to, send stuff over immediately. Like 30 minutes later, I send stuff over. I had stuff ready to go. I basically, just because I knew I had to send it over, did some very cursory research, had a generic sort of cover letter, who I was, what I could help the team with, pretty much switched out names.
Yes,
Who
yeah,
I was,
sure.
just trying to get something, because I knew it was going to be an avalanche of stuff. People, when a broadcasting job opens in minor league hockey, within 20 minutes,
Flooded.
there's 20 guys that have applied.
Yeah.
And within 3 days, there's 300 of them, like 150 guys that have applied. Not kidding. And so I got an email response back from the guy who would end up being my boss at the Royals, and he said, "Can you be here on Thursday?" It was the same day that we were flying to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, "What do I do?" And he emailed me, and it was like sent from my iPhone.
Oh, right.
And so I knew, like, he's looking for the
Yeah.
response quick. Talked to a few people. They said, "I think you gotta do it." I'm like, "Well, what do I do about, like,
Yeah, that's
job
a
that I
huge
got
thing.
there? Like, there's a preseason tournament. We're flying to Pittsburgh." I came up with this idea in my mind that to tell my boss in Nebraska that I was gonna fly, and I wanted to be open. I didn't want to be like, there's a death in the family. Like, I'm not gonna BS someone.
Well, because karma comes back, and then there's a real
Then there's something that actually happened.
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna do that, even though a couple people told me to do that, like a family emergency.
Yeah, that also
I didn't
traps you up because hey, your grandmother died 3 times this year.
Yeah, seriously. I didn't want to do it. Maybe I should have, based on what the story I'm about to get into
Oh, boy.
is. So I was very honest. I said, we've always talked about how, like, you guys want to help people advance to the next level, and I'm like, I'm gonna be honest. I have a job interview on Thursday, and I need to miss the flight. I will pay for my flight there and back, obviously. I would like to do that, or what I'd really like to do is I'd really like to be a part of the team for the preseason games in Pittsburgh. And I mean, the response that I got was like, stuff that I wouldn't even dare to repeat to, like, the person I was to an absolute enemy. Like,
Really,
it was,
that
it was,
bad?
It was really bad. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but it was like not fair. It was not
Right.
fair, and it was a good learning experience.
Now, was this a
for me,
phone
honestly.
call or was this an email?
It was both. It was in person, phone call, everything.
Okay.
And basically, like, they said, like, get your crap.
You're
and
done.
Be back in the office on Monday.
Oh.
And hope you beg to have a job, which, like, I did. Like, I was like, listen, like, I feel strongly about still being part of this team, but, like, if something opens up that I feel like could be realistic, like, I want to go for it. You guys it's a development league. The USHL is a development league. And it was just, a couple bad eggs. Like, it's not the organization of the league as a whole,
Right.
just a couple people that didn't see eye to eye with me, which is fine. It's professional disagreement.
Right.
And anyway, so I ended up in Reading. Like, I'm scared bleepless because I don't know whether I'm gonna have a job.
Yeah, there's no safety net
There's
now.
no safety, so I just figured, like, I'm gonna go for this. Like, I'm meant to be here. Like, I'm sitting here in Reading, Pennsylvania, 2 hours from from my mom's house, and like 3 hours from my dad. Like, this would be great. Like, there'd be
Right.
nothing better. And had a good interview, and then 2 days later, I get the job. I'm back in Nebraska, and they were like, "Oh, we'll keep you on for now," or something like that. And then I got the job, and then, like, I put in my 2 weeks, but they ended up saying, "Well, just leave on Friday."
Ah.
And so I'm like, "All right," and I was out of there. And I felt bad about the way it ended, obviously, but
Sure.
you can't do anything if you don't see eye to eye with a couple people. And I'm sure that if I talked to them now, like, it would be fine and there wouldn't be a problem. But, like, it was a weird thing that happened to
Right.
me, where I ended up coming to Reading. It was a weird story. Something didn't click. And all of a sudden, but I got a new job anyway. So I don't know that was a good learning experience for me. But I don't know if I'd do anything differently.
Yeah, I don't know.
just might be more prepared for a negative response.
Yeah. Listening to the story and listening to how close you were to the start of the season,
Yeah, that was
I understand the frustration
Yeah.
that you may have received, but you can't trash a guy.
Yeah, like 24-year-old guy trying to better himself.
You can't trash a guy for doing that. Does it leave you in kind of a crappy spot? Sure.
Like, I don't want to talk about this part of it too much more, but, like, a podcast is more than just like, oh, you did this and that. Like, it's a learning experience, right? And so, again, like, if the people that are listening to this on the other end, right, like the people that I'm referring to, if they heard it, they would say, well, you left like a week before the season started, a week before the season started. That's not right. But with that being said, like, and they might still think that, but I'm not going to disagree that it's just like, oh, it's a learning experience and you move on from it, you know? And
Right. Plus, you ended up being somewhere where you're probably mentally happier.
yeah.
So you probably do your job. Not that you didn't do your job good there, but you know, all those little things play in to your ability to do your job and be happy in what you're doing.
Yeah. The worst distinction that anyone I think could get in any profession, professionally, I'm talking about, oh, he's just always going for the next job. Like, he's not really bought into the team and stuff
Loyalty,
like that.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, loyalty. And in the hockey world, like, if you don't play defense, you don't play.
Right.
Like, in the NBA, like, yeah, James Harden doesn't play defense during the regular season. He's the MVP of the league. And I love the NBA, but it's just fact, you know?
Right, sure.
Like, he's saving his energy for offense. Like, in hockey, if you save your energy, you better save some energy for offense, but you're also going to go 100% on defense.
Or be Phil Kessel. But, you know.
Yeah, no, but it's just a mentality, especially in the sports world. Like, if someone thinks you're disloyal in the sports world, like, that gives me a negative pit of emotion in my stomach. That's like the worst thing that you could be.
Right.
So, you know, I'm happy to be close to home, and I love it here in Reading, and it's great, and I love the city, and I love my time in Nebraska, and it's awesome. I'm happy to be here and working for a great organization.
So do you look at this as, now I don't know the ranks of things. I'm not sure.
This is double A.
And Tri-City was?
Essentially, it's a junior league, so essentially think of it like a step below college.
So this is a promotion for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that by the added responsibility on your LinkedIn. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
But you seem like a guy that likes to work, that likes to fill up his time. Does it ever get to a point where now there's, and maybe this is just what it is.
Yeah.
You know, maybe once you reach this point, these are all your responsibilities, and it is what it is. Yeah. And do you ever find it? Do you ever find yourself struggling a little bit to maintain all that? Because I mean, to constantly post on Twitter, to constantly have a social media presence.
We have a post in 9 minutes on Twitter.
See, okay, there you go.
Scheduled, so.
Yeah, that's way beyond my ability. Yeah. But you saw me struggle with the software. Mute button. Yeah. We'll get into. Well, I'll explain that afterwards. But so you do a lot of automatic posts. You do a lot of scheduled posts, and you don't have to constantly sit there and go. I would go
crazy.
Nuts. Yeah, I was gonna say people go nuts. People that post hundreds of times a day. So, but you have to put them in there.
Yep, that's work. You have to have the foresight to think at 6 o'clock. I think people will want to see this a week from now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You have such long-term preparation. Yeah. Blows my mind. I'm not wired.
Was about does it ever feel like it piles up?
Yes. Does it ever become overwhelming with all those responsibilities? Because you only have a certain amount of time.
Yeah, but you work through it because you're doing what you like to do.
So you're not working.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're not working. So from my side of it, what's interesting is that I do travel with the team during the off season and during the regular season, making sure that when we show up to the Wheeling, West Virginia hotel at 2 a.m, that we're not sitting on the corner of the road, because that would be like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Doing the media relations side of it, all the media releases that we put out, I'm writing. During the season, I might get some intern help. But other than that, all the media releases, I'm writing. The social media, I'm doing sales stuff in the off season, which if you're successful with it, then it can carry into the regular season. And that's the hope. So I'm still learning a little bit, and I did a little in Tri-City, so I'm still learning out in Nebraska from what I learned out in Nebraska. But but there's always some time to do it. You just have to be efficient and try to budget your time, because if you think it's an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 job during the season, you're screwed. You're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If you're in the NHL, it's not an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, and that's when your entire job is devoted to the radio or the TV broadcasting, and it's still not. During the season, your hours are crazy. Is it overwhelming at times? Yes, but to me, the overwhelming part is, don't be awake at 3 a.m. by yourself on the bus, feeling like crap about yourself. Be asleep. Give yourself that time to rest and sleep on the bus, and have your sleep straight up sometimes or in a weird spot. Do your work on the bus at midnight on a Saturday after you've called games for 2 straight days and worked back-to-back 14-hour days, and you got a game coming up the next day at 3 p.m. at home, and you got to get your game notes done. You got to write the preview for the next day. like that's where it can feel overwhelming.
I'm already overwhelmed and I'm not doing any of this.
And then you got to schedule all the social media posts,
Sure.
and you got to email the other broadcaster and media guy, make sure they're all set. All this stuff, and you just do it because it's like, okay, next thing, and it's the same thing if anyone's ever, it's a stressful situation. It's minor league hockey. I don't know if overwhelm's the right word, but at times it can feel like if you don't do things, it will be overwhelming.
Sure.
But you just do it, and there's a reason why people want to have the job that I do, and that because it's fun.
Sure. You're watching a sport you love to watch, and you're commenting on it and being involved in it.
We're coming back from Norfolk, Virginia in February, and we stop at this gas station at midnight. And there's like this rooster standing next to a gas station that's like blocking our way from going into this gas station in rural Virginia. And like one of the players is like making fun of this rooster or something like that, or whatever it was. And like that's hysterical.
Sure.
And that's like a fun story. And you take a picture and you post it on social media, like found a friend on the trip back to Reading or something.
Right.
And it's just this like chicken standing in front of like a Speedway gas station. That's fun.
Sure.
Buying Michael Hunterbrinker was a forward on our team this season, one of the best rookies in the league. Like buying Michael like a Reese's Big Cup because he said he had never tried it before, and then like you surprised him and you split a Reese's Big Cup with him, where you have one and he has the other one, and like that's fun. It's something that no one else. It's splitting a Reese's peanut butter cup with a professional hockey player.
Right.
And you're not being weird about it, but you develop a relationship. These guys are 25, 26, like I am. Like it's fun to be around these guys.
I'm sure.
The crap that gets said on a minor league bus.
I can imagine.
Is some of the funniest, just the funniest things that you will hear in your entire life. And there's no doubt in my mind that like you will not hear anything funnier than what you hear on a minor league bus. And you're sitting there, most of the time I have my headphones in, like listening to Bruce Springsteen and just trying to like bang out some work. And you hear this story being told in the background, and it's like the funniest, it's like the dumbest and funniest thing. There's no way for me to describe it other than like it's the place you want to be at that time, even though it's a pain in the ass that you're traveling 7.5 hours to Portland, Maine on a Tuesday at 11 p.m.
Sure, you're creating memories that you're going to have for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Whether it's the work-related stuff or whether it's the bus trips, you have stuff that nobody can take away from you no matter what happens, which is kind of the deeper what this whole thing's all about anyway.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. You're obviously a man of discipline because that schedule sounds insane. And to keep your mind is crazy.
Well, I mean, you look at the schedule and...
Yeah, what's going on with the Royals coming up?
Yeah, so our first game is October the 13th versus Worcester. We have this big opening weekend planned. Block party and a red carpet presentation.
Really?
Gonna have a band out there and everything
that's
right
cool.
across from the DoubleTree there. It's really nice. We did it last year too. And this year it's going to be a little bit bigger and grander and make it more like Hollywood red carpet. That's going to be
That's neat.
Opening weekend. We'll have some giveaway on that opening night too. We're trying to set a world record, which we can't talk about just yet.
Oh, come on.
But
Breaking news.
No, not yet. I actually can't yet, because if it doesn't happen, then you'll be angry at me. But it should happen. But like this is a Monday to Friday job, and then if you play on the weekends, like those are 14-hour days.
Wow.
And so, I'm looking at the schedule pretty much from October 5th, which is the first preseason game, through about, trying to find my first day off, like Sunday, November 4th, from basically October 4th until Sunday, November 4th.
You get a couple days after that. I see.
No, I won't get a couple days, but I'll be off on the Sunday and then maybe take that Monday like to relax a little bit and do like a half day type thing.
Really? So you're off the 4th. Well, you're off that night, right?
Well, it's the Sunday.
You're off Sunday.
I'm not going to be, but I still might do like a little bit of prep or something, just depending. But I should be good because we play Adirondack for the first time that upcoming weekend. I know this is terrible for radio or listening.
No, I'm fine with it.
I'm
completely fine with it.
Yeah, there's times where, and this is not a woe is me. This is, like I'm going to be working a month straight every day, at least, Monday to Friday, like 9 to 5. And
Now,
then on
home and
weekends,
homes.
Yeah.
Home and home's gotta suck.
Yeah, so, the first preseason game is 5 hours away in Glens Falls, New York, and then Saturday the 6th, we're at home, so we'll be back at 3 in the morning, go to bed. And, you wake up at 10 in the morning and you get yourself ready for a great old hockey game. But what I do, especially on a home game, and away games, there's more natural breaks. You go to morning skate, talk to a player or two, and then you're, have a nice meal for lunch, hang out, have a good meal for dinner, and then you call a game, and it's a little bit, you do some prep too and work, obviously. But for a home game, try to be in at the office probably like 9 or so, and then you work from like 9 to noon, and that's where you get the majority. Like you got to get your stuff done.
Right.
Then I try to build in like a 2-hour break from 12 to 2, let's say, where I'm off. Maybe go for like a walk, something like that. Get a little exercise if I didn't, go for a run in the morning or whatever. To clear your mind and try not to focus on the game that night, like a player would with a
Sure.
game now. Head back around 2, start, continue what you need to do, finishing up some pieces. Hopefully by 4 or 5, you're pretty like relaxed. Talk to the coach. Talk to Kirk, our head coach. He's wonderful, by the way. It has helped me a lot.
You were telling me about him on the phone when we were speaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great story for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an inspiring individual just to be around, given everything he's been through. But talk to Kirk at 4:30, interview's over at 4:45. Cut up the radio interview, broadcast equipment's already set up. Eat a nice pregame meal with one of our fine sponsors that will bring food.
Must be nice.
It's nice. Part of the perk of working a 14-hour day. And then you head up there to confer with Pat Richards, our radio color commentator, who's been doing it for 15 years for free.
Wow.
Gets in the game for free. He's like the encyclopedia of Royals hockey. He knows everyone that's ever played for the team and can tell you 3 things about them.
That's love of the game.
Yeah. He's former USA hockey referee and is like the best color commentator in the league.
Wow.
He gets it. And I like to let him speak more than me, or as much as I can, because he sounds a lot more intelligent than I do.
Well, you blew me out of the water. Not a high bar here, but you blew me out of the water.
And then you call a game. It's over at 9:30. You get the recap done. Hopefully, sent out no later than 10. That's sort of the rule I like to have. 30 minutes after, because you got to get on the 10 o'clock news, and you got to have so that they know what happened in the game. So then hopefully recap's done by 10:15 latest, but even then you're really pushing it. And then you get your game notes done, and you're done around maybe 12:15. It depends. If it's a home game, normally I'm with interns, so I'll maybe let them hang out to 11 and then say get out of here. I might be here another hour. You're not going to gain anything just by sitting here looking at me other than feeling miserable. So go back home maybe at 11, continue doing some game notes, finishing stuff for the game the next day. About 12:15, you're done. You're still so wired, man. That's the thing. You're so wired.
You don't crash?
It takes 30, 45 minutes, especially because I'm doing the social media after the game.
Right.
During the game, we have someone that does it, thank goodness. But you're so wired that it takes 30, 45 minutes for you to come down just laying in bed with the pillow over your head just to fall asleep. So then it's 1, let's say, most nights fall asleep. Coaches will be up later than me, by the way. If I say I fall asleep at 1, they're that's a godsend. They're prepping for the
next game.
day. They're maybe up until 2 or 3. But then you do it all again. You're asleep at 1. I try to wake up around 7:30. I'll make myself go for a run or something outside, or go to Body Zone or something like that.
Right.
Just try to run and listen to the game over from the last night. I'll put it on my iPod and listen through Dropbox on my phone, so that I have something to listen to while I'm exercising, so it's a little bit more bearable.
Right.
And then you get yourself set. You're at the office 9, 10 the latest on a Saturday. That morning skate starts at 10. They're off at 10:30. Talk to players about the game the night before, and you just
Do it
all
again.
again. And then if you have a game on Sunday, you do it
Do
again.
it again.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a weird schedule, but I don't think it's that much off from what other people are doing that are in this industry.
That's awesome.
And you just do it. Just do it.
Sounds like it takes amazing discipline.
It not as much as you think, because you're having a lot of fun.
Well, hey, Dave, I appreciate you coming
Yeah.
on.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for helping. By the way, there was a 30-minute period here where I couldn't realize what a mute button was. And I'll talk about that after Dave leaves. I've kept him for long enough. I appreciate him being on. And any last words about the Royals? What's the prediction for the year?
I think that the team is going to be really deep this year. Actually, just talking with our head coach, K-Mac, by the way, and I mentioned, he's got an inspiring story, cancer survivor. So you talk about someone that is disciplined and resilient.
Sure.
That's Kurt. Not to tangent it, but he's one of the best people I've honestly ever met in my life. And Yeah, but Kirk was telling me today, team's going to be really deep this year. We know a few guys that have signed. We'll be announcing a few more over the next few weeks. And it's going to be a lot of fun announcing these guys because our fans won't be able to put the pieces together on the depth chart. And I think like first, second, third, the team's made the playoffs 9 straight years.
Right.
We were third in the Eastern Conference, third in the division last year. So we played the second seeded team in the North Division.
Right.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we're second or first this year.
Awesome.
So I think it's going to be a really strong year.
Awesome. David Fine of the Reading Royals, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Justin.
I'm just saying.